Madam C.J. Walker was the first self-made female millionaire in America. She trained and employed over 20,000 women, her famous Walker agents, teaching them how to sell, how to lead, and how to become independent businesswomen. Our company gave thousands of black women professional and financial power at a time when racism and sexism blocked nearly every other opportunity for them. But incredibly, she started life with almost nothing. Early life and hardship. Madam C.J. Walker was born Sarah Breedlove in 1867 on a cotton plantation in Delta, Louisiana, the first child in her family born into freedoms after the Civil War. Her parents, Owen and Minerva, had been enslaved and were now poor sharecroppers. She grew up in extreme poverty. Tragedy struck early in her life. By age 7, Sarah was orphaned, losing both her mother and her father. She went to live with her older sister, and together they worked in the cotton fields. Just to survive with virtually no formal education, she only had a few months of school young. Sarah's childhood was filled with hard labor and hardship. At 14 years old, seeking to escape the abuse of her cruel brother-in-law, Sarah married a man named Moses M.C. Williams. At 17, she gave birth to her only daughter, Lelia, later known as Alelia. But just a couple of years later, Sarah's world was upended again. Her husband died unexpectedly when she was only 20 years old, widowed and alone with a toddler to care for. Sarah had to find a way to support herself and her child. So in 1889, she moved to St. Louis, Missouri, to join her brother, who were working there as barbers in St. Louis. She found work washing clothes and cooking for people. Day after day, she scrubbed laundry by hand, earning only about $150 for a full day's work. It was back-breaking labor, but she managed to save a little money out of those meager wages to send her daughter to school. Sarah also became active in her church, where she met successful African-American professionals who inspired her to imagine a better future. Still, by her mid-30s, she was working long hours as a laundress and barely scraping by. The stress of work and poverty were taking a toll on her health and her appearance, and that's when a personal crisis sparked a new idea, turning a hair crisis into an opportunity. In the 1890s, Sarah began to suffer from a severe scalp ailment. She had bad dandruff, and her hair started falling out, which was devastating for her. This problem was actually common among black women at the time. Most families didn't have indoor plumbing or electricity, so people could only bathe and wash their hair. Infrequently combined that with harsh soap and poor diet, and many women developed scalp diseases that caused hair loss. Sarah tried all sorts of home remedies and store-bought hair products to fix the problem. She even sought advice from her brothers. Remember, there were barbers and tried products made by another black woman entrepreneur named by Annie Malone. Nothing truly solved her hair issues until, as legend has it, she had a vivid dream revealing the ingredients for a special hair treatment in 1905. With renewed determination, Sarah took a bold step. She moved west to Denver, Colorado, with just. By 1908, Madam Walker's hard work was paying off. She opened a beauty training school in Pittsburgh, which she named Lilia Colleges after her daughter, to train women in her growing Walker system of hair care and sales. In 1910, she moved her operations to Indianapolis, then one of America's industrial hubs, and built her first factory there to mass produce her hair products from a one-woman startup mixing ointments in her kitchen. Madam C.J. Walker had grown into the president of a thriving manufacturing company in just a few years, building a beauty empire and empowering others. So, as her business expanded, Madam C.J. Walker never forget the struggle of the women she aimed to serve. She hired and trained an army of saleswomen, whom she called Walker agents, to sell her products around by country. She set up training programs and taught these women not only how to use and sell the hair care products, but also how to budget their finances to build their own customers' networks and essentially run their own business. By 1917, her company had trained nearly 20,000 black women as agents, nearly all of them formal maids, cooks, laundress, and farm workers who suddenly had a new path to earn a decent living. These agents could make a substantial income for a time. In fact, the top Walker agents might earn as much as $20 to $25 money bag a week selling hair products at a time, when many black women were stuck earning about $2 a week from domestic work. Madam Walker was offering economic independence on a scale that was unheard of for black women. Then, as she later explained, "I am not merely satisfied in making money for myself. I am endeavoring to provide jobs for hundreds of women of my race. Madam Walker also instilled in her agents a sense of pride, professionalism, and community service. She understood that her mission was about more than just hair care. It was about lifting women up. In 1917, she convened a national conference of her Walker agents in Philadelphia, one of the very first nation become leaders in civic life together. They even sent a telegram to President Woodrow Wilson urging him to support legislation to make lynching a federal crime. This was incredibly daring for a black businesswoman in 1917, when speaking out could be dangerous. But Madam Walker's was fearless. She used her influence to fight for justice and empowerment for her people. By the late 1900s, Madam C.J. Walker had become a national icon of entrepreneur success. She was frequently featured in black newspaper and magazines, and her face appeared in advertisements and event programs across the country. The broader American public also took notice of her achievement. In an era where almost no women, and certainly no women of color, were top industrial, Walker's really stood out. She is recorded in history as the first female self-made millionaires in the United States, and the time of her death in 1919, she was widely believed to be the wealthiest African-American woman in the country. She owned luxurious properties, including a mansion in New York called Villa Row, and employed thousands of people. But perhaps more important than just her personal wealth was how others she helped uplift through her business. She had transferred not only her own life, but lives of an entire generation of black women, giving them confidence, skills, and livelihood of their own. And Madam Walker's generosity extended beyond her business. Once she became wealthy, she became a notable philanthropist and social activist. She donated money to support black colleges, churches, and she famously contributed $5,000 to the NAACP Anti-Lynching Fund in 1918, which was the largest individual donations the organization had received up that point. She also gave scholarships to black students and funded the local YMCA in Indianapolis for black community, even changed the skyline